Good afternoon, PGA DFS fans. It is the PGA DFS Strategy Show. I am Jason Rouslin. I'm joined by Ben Rasa, who, let me tell you, this could be the flu game week for Ben Rasa as he is powering through some side effects from Johnson & Johnson. But listen, he's here. He is here to break it all down with me, some PGA DFS strategy. We've got some cash for GPPs. We've got some guys getting snubbed from featured groups that I'm going to ask Ben about, and so much more. And Ben, we're also going to talk about a couple of prop-based contests this week over on Monkey Knife Fight, of course, the sponsor of our show. I'm going to give them a second here to tell you about them. They are player props-based contests. What does that mean? Well, simply, you don't have to worry about ownership or anything like that, or any type of time commitment to be competitive with Monkey Knife Fight. You are in charge. Whether you want to play NBA, UFC, PGA, esports, or soccer, Monkey Knife Fight has it. You get to pick your buy-in level, pick your contest, and so much more. So to get started, head on over to monkeyknifefight.com and choose which game you want to play, your contest type, and your buy-in. Even better, use promo code Awesemo. You get an instant first match deposit of up to $50. Sign up today, and we'll be going over one of my props for that a little later on the show, Ben, but welcome to the show. I mean, I'm glad you're here with me, powering through this.
Yeah.
We got to talk RBC Heritage. I mean, you got to do it, right?
Got it. You know what? Yeah, I couldn't, Will walking wounded, but I'm all right. Just, I feel a lot better than I did a couple hours ago. Let me tell you. Yeah, listen, you know what? That's the one thing about golf, though. Normal, like you have the Super Bowl, there's no week of football right after, but in golf, it just keeps on going. We got plenty of tournaments, and this is a staple of the PGA Tour season. It's just a different dynamic than what we saw at Augusta, of course.
Sure, it's 136 players. The field is normally 132, which is a little bit weird, but that's where we're at. If anybody does withdraw, nobody's going to replace them until they get below 132 players. So expect that for your tee times this week. Interesting note here about Harbour Town Golf Links, which is where they're playing this year, which they play every year for this event. But what's interesting is last year they played it in June, obviously due to the COVID thing, and the scores were tremendously better, like worlds better than in years past. And it's because they did a couple of changes to the course to make it easier. Those changes aren't going to be completely reversed, Ben. I do think we're going to play a little bit harder than June did, just because of the time of the year, but the changes definitely made the course more appealing to the golfers, not having to grind it out all week. And you see the field, it's much, much better than the years past. Yeah,
this is a pretty, quality field. We always have like the stragglers who are RBC sponsored players that kind of feel like they're forced to play, but there's some other big names in this field, no doubt about it. And Harbour Town is just a distinctly unique track. It's one that we don't see a ton, and there's obviously accuracy type courses, but this is a very, the tree line nature of it, the small greens. I like this layout. I think it breeds itself to a different type of PGA DFS.
It sure does. And a different type of player pool. I mean, that's not seen any more than as we transition into the 10,000 guys than Dustin Johnson being not the favorite of this event by many books, which is something we definitely don't see. Now, he is the favorite in PGA DFS, still 11,500. But Ben, I got to be honest, the first time I can recall a Draftkings highest priced player not being the odds favorite and still being pretty significantly higher priced than everybody else.
It's a really interesting situation. Yeah, you mentioned that's the one thing. It's not like $100 difference. You're talking almost $1,000 difference between DJ and Webb. And you couldn't, Webb and this course are synonymous. It's everything that you would want. So I get it. But it's fascinating to see. I don't know if it's just recency bias, given, what we saw at Augusta, or the fact that Harbour Town is a neutralizer of a lot of skill sets, that we see something like this. It doesn't happen often, that's for sure.
And there was a big debate going on yesterday. I saw just about this exact subject with DJ kind of, not really fitting the course well at all, but coming here anyway, like you said, because of a sponsor. Be interesting to see what happens with his ownership this week, as a couple of other guys that are just not getting any early love. There's Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay, and I do short form videos each and every week, PGA DFS top 5 sleepers, and both of these guys are in it this week. Of course, make sure you like and subscribe, especially the subscribe portion. Get notified when those videos come live. But Ben, both going to be under 10% owned. Let's talk about Morikawa first, because I think maybe Patrick Cantlay is a deeper conversation. Morikawa seems to be pretty in form, under 10%. I think it's a good roster spot for him. I don't think he can go out and win, but top 10 seems likely. I think this was his first time in June last year. He's got more, knows his sight lines better. I think he's in for a good week this week.
Yeah, this is, I think I have my article that'll be posted shortly. And my key question of the entire week is what to do. You've got Webb, who's the lightning rod. Cantlay and Morikawa are just there, and they're a fraction of the ownership. Cantlay's playing terrible. I don't know. We're going to dig into that. But yeah, Morikawa, I'll second everything you said. And I know I did see he was taking a couple of days to go sneak some PGA reps just north of this, but he'll be ready to go, no doubt about it. And his game is just fantastic. So you've got that. I think he's an easier. So I like Cantlay. I'm willing to do it. But I was saying to you before the show, there were some things I did last week that I was prepared for them. Not that I thought they would go wrong, but I could see how they could have. Never in a million years did I think that Patrick Cantlay would be not competitive. And that was truly stunning. And I don't know what to really make of it.
Yeah, I don't either. A quick note on Morikawa. Yes, Kiawah Island, where they're having the PGA. It's probably a half-hour boat ride from island to island, if you will, a couple hours up I-95 North. So not surprised to see probably a lot of media engagements and stuff. So not surprised to see Morikawa go out there and get a peek at the course. Now, back to Cantlay. I talked yesterday a little bit on the Monday show with the guys about when you get started in a major behind the 8 ball, all of a sudden things can unravel pretty quickly. We saw it with McIlroy. Now, McIlroy in his career has been able to bounce back from traditionally bad round 1 performances. He wasn't able to do it this time. Now, I go to Patrick Cantlay here. It was weird because on day 2, I was watching him play the 16th hole because, of course, Augusta gave us that coverage. The announcer said that he was trying to get steeper on his iron swings. Now, without getting technical, Ben, that's neither here nor there. Why is one of the best iron players in the world in Patrick Cantlay trying to change his swing? And why is one of the best drivers in the world, Rory McIlroy, trying to get more distance? It doesn't make sense why these guys are trying to change things, especially given the fact that it was Augusta last week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously, I think we all knew that I liked Rory, but even though I was very disappointed, I knew that the floor could have been impacted. I still think that the ceiling is there, and obviously he's got a lot of work to go. So I could see clearly he's working through some things, but to see Cantlay that lost, to me was truly shocking. And now he heads to a course here. I know Webb is kind of the guy, but Cantlay has been absolutely phenomenal every time he's chosen to tee it up here at Harbour Town. I mean, you just look 3rd, 7th, and 3rd in his 3 appearances, dismantled the course tee to green. Age-old question, course history versus recent form. I'm going to go with just the long-term pedigree of Patrick Cantlay if you're going to tell me he's 1/3 or 1/4 of the ownership of Webb.
Harbour Town, for me, it sets up as a target-oriented golf course with guys that keep the ball in play off the tee and are strong with their irons, likely succeed here. Collin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay are the ideal type for that exact kind of thing. Keep the ball in play off the tee, which is what they do. And both are superb with their irons. So I like both of them a lot this week. I think they're both in good under-owned spots. I think the chalk is going to go to Simpson and Daniel Berger. Let's speak a bit about Berger. Again, probably a pretty good setup course for him. Why is he quadruple the ownership of Morikawa, double the ownership of Cantlay? I mean, I know he's cheaper, Ben, but seems like we're giving too much credit to a guy that could be injured.
Your boy, Daniel Berger. Yeah, I mean,
here I am hating again.
Yeah, I know. You had to get that in there. Listen, I get why people have some interest, and Daniel Berger kind of has that profile. I think the St. Jude's double wins have kind of pigeonholed in that he likes these short accuracy type courses. I mean, this is a par 71, but still. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of ways to go up here, and you can be unique, and you're not sacrificing much. And I think at a course like this, there's a lot of questions. You've mentioned, last year it played a little easier, and I don't think we know exactly what we're going to get. I'm going to play a little ownership game. I think Webb is by far the safest, but after that, it's wide open.
Yeah, and I think that there's one more guy that we're going to talk about up here in the 10K range, and it's Cam Smith. And I think for Smith, being $10,200 is going to be a big sticker shock for a lot of people. But even as you go up in the higher dollar buy-ins, I think he's going to be incredibly low owned. Now, that's on the low ownership portion. On the actual strategical portion of playing this golf course, well, he did win his one win at the Sony Open. Now, granted, it's on the other side of the world, but they set up relatively similar. Target-oriented golf course, Wailea is. I think it's a similar par and a similar yardage. They're both relatively close to the ocean. Granted, different oceans. I may be stretching on that little ocean part, but as far as course setup goes, Ben, would you say that they are relatively similar in senses of you don't need to hit the ball 400 yards to compete here?
Yeah, I think there's some elements that I'll say this. You're significantly more punished, in my opinion, at Heritage if you're messing around off the tee. Sony, you can get away with some things, but Cam Smith, we know the profile. He's not going to be good off the tee. He's going to lean on the short game. That's just what he does. And the course history here confirms it. He hasn't really been good, but he has gained. He's played here 5 times. He's been positive strokes around the green in all 5, but he's lost on the iron with the irons in 4 of 5. And that's what's going to need to flip here. He's a great scrambler. He's a great player, but you got to be a little crisper with your approach in this aspect.
We certainly do. All right, let's move down a little bit down the board. But before we do, I'm going to let you guys know about a couple of free pieces of Awesemo Plus content we got going on today for NBA. If you're trying to play that tonight, player projections, those are free. MLB, we have so many sports going on. It's crazy right now, man. Top stacks for MLB. Go ahead and grab that. For PGA, golfer projections for this week. Pretty good tool right there. And for NHL, if you're still skating on the ice, player projections are also free there. Now, if you're ready to join us fully behind the curtain, as Ben says, then get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. That's going to cost you just $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, player projections, ownership projections, Slack channel where you get to chat with all of the experts, lineup builder, and so much more. And of course, if you're just looking to play PGA, we've got a great set of tournaments coming up. Masters to most kicks off the golfing year. So just $8.95 for that package. So stop guessing and start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Ben, this 9K range, it is filled with chalk this week. Only Sung J M is going to get below 15%, probably still above 10%, even though he shot 950 over par last week. Is there anybody that sticks out to you more so than the others, given the fact that they're all going to be 15 to 20% owned?
Yeah, so when you have a situation like that, you can kind of go just best available. And all these guys, there's merit to why they're garnering ownership. I'm going to stick to, Fitzy and this course have an interesting relationship. He's been pretty vocal that he loves Harbour Town, but the results really hadn't been there. He's starting to get it together. He's had a pair of 14th place finishes in recent years. I just think that Fitzy's game ultimately will win out long-term at this course if he plays it a lot. I expect some very good scores here. So he's towards the lower, range. But the guy I want to ask you about is someone that I never know what, and you've mentioned you really don't play this guy at majors because right now he hasn't gotten it done. Ty Hatton did find the weekend, and he did close with a good Sunday. What do you make of him at 95?
So I looked at the results from last year here, and he came in third, and I'm like, why? It seems like this should be, a tougher track, which maybe Hatton doesn't excel on, but making the course easier, making those fairways easier to hit. Now it comes into a little bit of a putting contest, which, listen, Webb Simpson won. How much more do we need to see that it's a putting contest? Well, Ty Hatton, when he gets going, one of the best. We saw the ball striking there over the weekend. Thanks for actually in our chat right now, Nelson Adcock doing some fantastic strokes gained work off the Masters last week. And we saw the ball striking stats were great for Hatton for most of the week, Ben. So I think it's a perfect setup. Greens are significantly easier, obviously, than Augusta last week, which always causes Ty Hatton some eruptions. Yeah, I'm playing him this week. I'd rather play him than Paul Casey if it's going to be a putting contest. Paul Casey switched to cross-handed putting on Sunday, Ben. He putted pretty good, but he's in his head. He comes out on the first hole. He's got an 8-footer for birdie, and I'm like, oh, all right, here we go with a Paul Casey 8-footer for birdie. Throws his left hand low, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And then drains it. Is that all he needed, Ben? Should he have been doing this his whole career?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, anytime you see a guy, obviously he's searching, and maybe he did find something there. I'm always a little skeptical of that. I think it's a pretty crowded range, as you mentioned. And then there's, Will Z is a guy that I don't know what to make of at this point. Obviously, I think it's pretty clear he's very, very good. But coming off that, I think it's a fair question to at least ask where he's at, what has he got left in the tank? That's an emotional life changer. I don't know. He's very good. I don't think that's my priority though.
1.2 milli into the bank account.
Yeah, that'll work.
Probably going to make him feel rather comfortable for a little while, given the fact that he was Monday qualifying at Korn Ferry Tour events at the beginning of 2019. But with that being said, it honestly, watching most of his shots this week, Ben, it didn't look like he was stressed at all. It looked like he never got out of his comfort zone. It seemed pretty easy for him. I know that sounds weird, but he had an amazing putting week. Okay, it was probably his best putting week of his career. May never eclipse that performance, but this golf course, you can see that if there's no trouble, Will Zalatoris is not going to miss many fairways, and he's an excellent iron player. So again, I kind of like this setup. I've always said that Zalatoris really mimics his game after Simpson. He's not as good a putter, but last week he was. And Simpson won here, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Willie Z go out and compete again, even after the runner-up last week.
So I know this is more of a Wednesday question, but you know what? Yeah. We're the original Wednesday crew, so we can ask these things.
Yeah, we should.
Do you anticipate you're going to start with him, or do you think he'll possibly be your aggressive second man?
Well, the first build in this kind of goes to how you want to build this week. I believe Ty Hatton, which, you know, little hot take or a little sneak peek at the hot take section here. I think he wins this week. I think everything is transferring into that. He's been good this year. We haven't seen him get a win in, you know, close to a year now. So I like Ty Hatton to win. So I started with him. It was a lot easier for me to get Willie Z in with him than go up to Colin Morikawa or Cam Smith. So there's your answer there. I did play him in my biggest contest this week for right now. I see his upside just as good right now as Colin Morikawa's, and it's an $800 difference. That meant something this week.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, obviously I have not built yet, but just, you know, kind of conceptually grasping where I want to go. I could see myself starting in the 9s. I know you're giving up a decent amount, but there's a lot of quality there and you have a lot of options and you can double up.
Yeah, notice the chat just actually mentioned that Willie Z changed his putting setup last week. I didn't notice anything specific. So Alex, let me know what he changed in the chat. Appreciate that tidbit. But
Sergio wins. Now that's a hot take. I respect that.
Well, Sergio, you know, as we go down to the 8K range, I think we're pretty much done with the 9K. You mentioned Fitzy already. Everyone's over 15%. I like Fitzy. I like Hatton. I like Willie Z. I'll continue to fade Corey Connors, and I'll actually fade Paul Casey this week. Before we get to Sergio, what are you doing, Paul Casey?
I'm kind of indifferent. You know, I have a feeling I'll come in close. I'm going to most likely be under on Corey Connors again. So if your book offers hole-in-one props, obviously go to the window once again. It's unbelievable, but that's another story for another time. You can't play.
Yeah, I saw a listener, by the way, cash in on that last week, by the way. They sent me a Twitter message.
Disturbing.
90 to 1 payout. Gotta love it.
What these people have, I swear to God, time machines. I'll probably be under on Connors. Casey, I'm indifferent. Certainly, I'm going to go with the Englishman, Hatton, Fitzy, maybe Fleetwood as we get to the 8s. That's the one I'm a little unsure of what to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a great change here. So still a ton of chalk with Answer, Harmon there, but Fleetwood. This guy basically has done nothing when we've expected everything this entire year. But I will say the irons have been getting better, right? We saw last week, I think he was top 10 in greens in regulation. That's all we have, you know, in terms of that type of stat. It looked like his strokes gain on the approach from Nelson looked pretty decent. Then we know he played good at match play. 6% owned. You've got to be at least a little bit interested in terms of a strategy perspective in your GPP lineups, right?
I am. And I don't know if it's still believing that, you know, Fleetwood is going to break through and close one of these. I don't know if it's that he's had a lot of success at Honda, which I think has some relevance, or the fact that, you know, it wasn't that long ago. He would go to Europe. He would be unbelievable with the irons. He would come here. He'd be broken. It's starting to level off a little bit. So I do think with a range, I'm not in love with it. I think Answer is interesting for a lot of reasons, just playing good golf, just a damn good player, but you can sell me on Tommy Fleetwood here at 8,800.
Yeah, I'm going to buy a little bit. In terms of the loaned plays, from a strategy perspective, he's the best. I mean, Billy Horschel, Matt Kuchar, Lee Westwood, those are the low-owned plays in this 8K range. Ben, I can't really play any of them. Matt Kuchar, he did have a better Friday. I thought he was trending in the right direction, had his worst round at Augusta in his career on Thursday. So maybe we throw that out a bit. He does have some of the most consistent course history here. Maybe not as much upside as some of the others, but certainly consistency can be key in certain lineups. So does Matt Kuchar have enough upside for you to play him, Ben, or is he more towards your cash gameplay, which of course we'll go into at the end of the show here?
Yeah, it's tough. He's another guy who plays this event, every year, has had a ton of success. Winner in 2014, runner-up a couple years ago. I thought he was primed to at least make the cut last week, coming off what seemed to be an upswing. He was very good at match play, showed some life. Wasn't there, but he was close. He missed on the number, obviously.
2 under on Friday, yeah.
Russell Henley is right there, though, and that's someone that I think is going to garner most of my shares when I look at it. So it's nothing against Kuchar. I do think he's still going to garner some cash game consideration there if you're going to flat 8. But you've got an option right below him. I know it's the next tier that I'm much more interested in Russell Henley this week.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of interesting names. Want to get or chat about Abraham Answer and Brian Harman this week. Both probably look to set up as pretty good plays here at this golf course. Obviously, both shorter hitters off the tee, pepper fairways. Harman, certainly a great putter. Answer came in second. Probably should have won here last year. So what do you make of that, Chalk? But for good reasons. I'm assuming you'd much rather play them over, say, Corey Connors, Chalk.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
Do you think you can play both of them in a GPP setting and still have enough upside to win, or have enough leverage to win? I think there's upside, enough leverage to win.
Yeah, I think that you're still going to have the ability to do a lot. In a field like this, there's plenty of guys that we haven't even talked about yet that could get in the mix, that could garner a lot of placement points. So I do think you have the ability to be pretty vanilla, not do anything crazy, and then find a couple, not radical plays, but just a little different, or leave a couple $100 on the table. And I will explore that. But I think when you look this week, you've got Webb up top as that lightning rod. Then as we incrementally work down, you've got a couple of checkpoints, in the 8s like that. And then once we get to the 7s, this is where it starts to open up with a lot of plays that I think are pretty close together. Getting those right could be the difference this week.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's now talk about Sergio Garcia, who our chat brought up, said might win this week. Got Shane Lowry right there. You got Harris English also right there. And we'll throw Lee Westwood in. Actually, no, let's not throw Lee Westwood in this conversation because his form, I believe, is done. You can try and convince me otherwise, but I don't think you're going to. Did have a decent Friday at Augusta, but I think it's done for a little while. Let's talk about Garcia, Lowry, English. English, for me, seems to be the one that is trending upwards the most, while Garcia and Lowry kind of maybe had their peak a couple of weeks ago. There was no reason Sergio Garcia should have missed this cut at Augusta. He did again. But this golf course, if he is going to hit a ton of fairways, we know his iron play could be still some of the best in the world, even though it didn't look great last week.
Yeah, Sergio's always tough because he's a good driver of the ball, can get hot. He's just a horrible putter. And he kind of, has a lot of elements of Paul Casey in some regard. And then you look at Harris English as someone I'm actually pretty interested in, just because it seemed like his form was going to, really cool off. And he's kind of rebounded again. He got it back at API, was good at the Masters. This is a good course for him. So I don't mind it. I'm not running to the window, but in a range that I think is pretty weak. I have no interest in Lee Westwood. I don't really want to play Billy Ho, so I'll have shares there that I could definitely allocate to Harris English.
Me too. And that is definitely a first for both you and I. So definitely queue up that missed cut, because it's the first time that I can recall in recent history. Both Ben and I are in for some shares of Harris English. How about Shane Lowry? To me, I think it's an easy pivot right to English. Looks like similar ownership, and I can't see a reason to play Lowry over English right now.
Agree. Shane Lowry is someone I have a tough time in general getting to, and in a situation like this where I won't need a ton, I will probably just roll to English.
Fair enough. Okay. Kevin Na was just brought up. Interesting play. Good course history. stuck in it last week again, kind of did what I thought Kevin Na would do in a tough event, just made a birdie streak on Friday to get himself in the cut line, made a little bit of a move on Saturday, and just kind of treaded water on Sunday. It's a pretty good course for him. This guy just comes out of nowhere and wins. I don't mind that play. I think it's a decent pivot off of Siwoo Kim, who's down there. And that pretty much covers the 8K. Do you want to talk about Kevin Na quickly, or are you out this week?
So, yeah, I'll say this. Me and Josh Engelman's PGA Contenders video, Josh bet him 41-1. And it is someone who he does win more tournaments than I kind of feel like he should. He's a really good around the green player. You need some things to break his way, but this is the type of course he's certainly built to hang in. So no problem there. Again, I would rather go to Russell Henley, though. That's a guy that I do think sets up very well this week.
Now, if you are not able to watch that awesome contender video on YouTube or even this show, then I'm going to direct you over to our podcast network. Again, if you're not able to watch these shows on YouTube, almost all of them are available through our Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest. And listen, just leave a 5-star review on one of those podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address. You're going to be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible for up to a year, Ben. So let's go listen to us one time over there. Not a member, leave your Twitter handle, and got a good chance to win. So we move down to the 7K. You mentioned Russell Henley already. I just mentioned Siwoo Kim. I think because of that, throw in Charlie Hoffman too. There's a guy sandwiched in between all those three that's going low owned that I like. And with a top 12 last week, he's pretty close to getting that STM, special temporary membership, and that's Bobby McIntyre. You like him here this week?
Oh, boy, I was very impressed. The lefty got it done. Happy to see him in the Masters next year. I still, this is a tough one because he's a young, talented guy, but we don't have a ton of information on him. We see him basically at top-end events, majors, and WGCs. So we haven't seen him in fields of this caliber and at courses like this. I tend to say I'll probably go to the guys that are more known commodities, but I see why you may hold on with a guy who's got this much talent.
Yeah, and our chat just asked about another guy that maybe has broken out over here a little bit more, just given the amount of starts that he's been given or got. And it's Christian Bezaiden, who would you rather go to Bezzy knowing he's one of the best short game players in the world, or would you rather take it and 12% ownership, or would you rather go to McIntyre at 5% ownership and a little bit more unknown?
So I would rather go to Bez, particularly because his off the tee game is very weak, and I think there are elements that you can get away. You can model it kind of after Webb here, and he has that ability to do that. He still I was very impressed that, Bez found the weekend once again, and this is a range. I don't think any of these guys are going to be massively owned because we've got, Henley and Siwoo and Hoffman, some names that are playing pretty good. Munoz is there as well.
Yep.
I would go to Bez over Bobby Mack, even at, a little extra ownership.
So between the broken putter man and the bad course history of Russell Henley, who would you rather play this week? Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, or both?
Don't mind both, but it would be Russell Henley. This is a guy that leads the tour in par 4 scoring. He has gained strokes putting in every single event this year. And then you go to RBC Heritage. It hasn't been great, but he has played here a lot. And to me, that is important. Henley's a guy, he can get really hot with the irons. We've seen that. He had an event pretty recently, at Honda. That was not recently. It was a long time ago. Time is a flat circle here, but still, he gets crazy hot with the irons. That was a year ago. My God. I like Henley. I love the price. Everything. He's got some roots in the area. All systems go for me with him.
Yeah, let's be clear about the course history, right? It's 3 top 26s along with 3 missed cuts. So volatility, but that's what you see with Henley. If he gets to the weekend, he's likely going to give you a top 30, top 25, which at this price, I really don't mind. Again, like you said, the course history isn't great, but hey, Sung Jae Im's even missed 2 cuts here. Find another place for Sung Jae Im has missed both cuts, and it's just what happens sometimes at Harbour Town. If your game is not truly intact. There's not a ton of places to miss, especially off the tee. All right, Charlie Hoffman, you are definitely a pioneer of this guy from time to time. 7,800 though, the price is starting to creep up, but the results, I mean, he should be 10,000 based on his recent results.
Guy's playing great. It's with the irons too. He's just absolutely scorching hot. Gained 6 at Valero, 7.3 at the Players, 5.5 at API, and 4.8 at Genesis. What's there to say? If you're striking it like that, you're going to be in play. You mentioned everything is trending upward, and I'm sure there's an element of maybe cashing in some of those dividends and not pushing it, but I'm still going to hang on, certainly in some capacity, even if he's not a focal point.
One of your hot takes last week, I was watching the Wednesday night show, was this guy to get into contention, and everything looked good on Thursday. Then the easy day Friday came. Conditions were perfect, and Kevin Kisner is just telling us that he is nowhere close to the type of golf we think he might be able to be. Well, that he definitely can do, but it hasn't been for a while. So for me, 7,700, still over 10%. I'll very easily slide those up to McIntyre or down to Brandon Grace.
So this is an interesting situation for me. This is a guy that I'm doing, and I do this occasionally. You've talked about it as well. I think Kisner is a better bet than play. He's 60-1 in the outright market, and I still believe that Kisner's top end equity, this guy's won a WGC, he's won several events on tour. I think he could strike lightning in a bottle, but I think his floor is a straight miscut, as we've seen in recent weeks. So if ownership is going to be there, it's a competitive range. I'm not going to have a ton of interest in the DFS side per se, even if I think that there's some merit to a top-end finish in certain scenarios, particularly if he can flip the irons.
On the other side of the non-consistent nature of Russell Henley here at this golf course is the consistent nature of Ian Poulter at this golf course, which, I mean, I'm looking at it right here. He's made his last 7 cuts here. It includes 5 top 20s, actually. I mean, I would just play every Kevin Kisner time that I would click. I just go right down to Ian Poulter, and they're similar type golfers.
That's fair. And this is a name I have a feeling we're going to be bringing up in a couple minutes in the Cash First GPP. Sure. Poulter's one of those guys who certainly makes a lot of sense if you're building a cash lineup or a very stable lineup.
Absolutely. More in this range. Maybe a little bit of more instability. We got Matt Wallace, but then we got the stable Chris Kirk. Same price, completely different ownership. In fact, Chris Kirk projected one of the highest by our guy Alex Baker here at Awesemo. Of course, you can get those full set of projections. It's part of the Awesemo Plus package. Ben, what do you make of the enormous amount of ownership Chris Kirk is getting versus Matt Wallace, who's playing pretty good?
Yeah, I don't really... I understand it because Chris Kirk is playing fantastic. 6 at Valero. He's made 5 straight cuts. Everything checks out, tee to green. But at the same time, again, there are reasonable pivots. Matt Wallace got the job done last week. He was 6,400. He made that cut, played well enough on the weekend, and he was a nice, low-end value for your Masters lineups. That's not to mention then you've got Cam Davis, Sam Burns, these are different types of players from the guys we just talked about, but you have options here. So I get it with Kirk. I'm going to have shares. There's no doubt about it, but don't forget about the pivots here, especially if you're looking to shake it up.
Agreed. Munoz, you mentioned before too. I think he's fine. Another good week scoring. Couple of birdie streaks, Ben. I mean, the guy is just the most hot and cold player on the golf course that I can think of right now. Does that, again, maybe I can table this question for the end. This is, to me, a cash first GPP build. Munoz would go every time in the GPP side versus cash.
Oh, absolutely. He's someone that is big range of outcomes, can get crazy hot, but the stability I still don't think is there. And that's really what you're, as we look to cash first GPP, that's really what you're balancing out. You're looking for floor, you're looking for made cut equity. GPP, you're looking for top 5 equity, for win equity in some regards. So that's how I would segment it out.
Thanks for the lead in, because these next 3 golfers are all top 10 or top missed cut equity. And they're all very similar playing styles and very similar profiles. Aaron Wise, Sam Burns, and Cameron Davis, all at the same price, all under 5% owned this week. All, as you and I have said many times, both with tremendous potential. Which one of these guys breaks through first, and is it this week?
So
Wise already has a win, so
he does have a win, but it would kind of be like a second breakthrough because it's crazy. That win was 3 years ago now.
It's insane.
Aaron Wise, I say this as often as I can, Aaron Wise made the cut at all 4 majors in 2019. Like, he was destined for bigger things than this. And it seems right now that the putter is in shambles. He lost another 4.5 at Valero. He lost 10.5 at Waste Management earlier this year. It's very hard to compete there. He does seem to like coastal waterline tracks. And I think there's some elements of that here with the technical layout. So I think I'm going to take, I love Aaron Wise in life, and I still think it's there, but I think this is a pretty good course for him. You got to flip the putter, though. You can't be losing Benyon-esque strokes on the greens.
No, you can't. You can't get it done because he's just he's not as good of a ball striker as Benyon was when Benyon was going through that rough patch. Now he's kind of a bad ball striker as well. Not everything is going in way of Benyon right now. Chad just asked about one of the guys that's up next on my list, Brendan Todd. My note to you, Ben, is that he's just there.
That's fair. He is there. I totally get why you may have some interest in him. Extreme accuracy, as Chad pointed out. I kind of feel like he's almost in the discussion maybe for cash. Guy makes a lot of cuts. He's a very good putter.
You're banking on a top 30-ish, which is what you got last week until I think he blew up on Sunday. I don't know where he finished exactly, but it was trending toward a top 28 to 36.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you're looking at there. So if that fits what you're trying to do, more power to you. I'm not sure exactly what else is down there per se. Mostly tournament plays in the lower 7s, in my opinion.
Kevin Streelman and Emiliano Grillo are looking to be the most popular guys in this range, and I think I understand why. For me, if I was only going to play one of the low price chalks between these two, I'd play Grillo. I think he's playing better. I think that Streelman, while, he's had a good bit. I mean, he made the match play. I mean, that means he's, top 65 in the world. It's kind of a little bit shocking to me. I don't know if this is the great course for him. I don't know what course is good for him. Pebble Beach, I guess, which some would say is a good comp to this because of the small greens. I'm not really sure. Help me out with Kevin Streelman.
It's tough. I get it. Yeah, I mean, you get wedges in his hand. He can be very effective. I just, when I look at it, it's very uneventful. I guess you could say his strokes gained, does a little of this, a little of that. He gains off the tee pretty consistently. I'll give him credit there, but obviously I would rather play Grillo. You know what you're getting from him one way or another.
Yeah, and just to mention about Kirk really quick, he has been running so hot around the green bend. He's averaging at least a chip in every single tournament. So it's I got to think that stops soon. I hate to keep fading guys because, it's just like on the same side of keeping on playing guys. Like you keep on playing Will Gordon and there's no return. You keep on fading Corey Connors and it's been, detrimental to the bankroll. One way those will end up giving back to the other side, maybe. Although Jason Kokrak has kind of proven us wrong. Zach Johnson might fit the profile. Don't like him here, though. I know he had a good week at the RSM Classic, which is, 2 hours south of this event, hour by boat. You like Zach Johnson, or is that run done?
No, I don't really see it, to be honest. I mean, there's just so many names down here that are doing things to me that with larger range of outcomes, whether it's Fratelli, you've got Poston, Harry Higgs was just brought up with Chad. Again, I don't think these guys are safe, but they at least have a skill set that I think if they hit their top end, it's going to pay off in a big way. Whereas I don't really see that with Zach Johnson.
Yeah, no, I definitely do not. Not right now. He's had been a great cut maker, but it's just not going great. CT Pan and Adam Hadwin. Obviously, CT Pan being a former champion of the event, one would think that it's a decent fit, and it is. His price is just way high. He should be 6,400 this week. Had a good Friday at Augusta. Almost made the cut. Almost battled back to get there. Ben did not, obviously. But Adam Hadwin, he's on a good stretch of golf quietly, and I think this profiles for him superbly. Course history also looks pretty good. So what say you about Hadwin and Pan? And then, of course, I got a couple of other guys at that flat 7 that I'll talk about.
Yeah, can't CD Pan is getting a major course history bump with the price, and that makes it tough. Hadwin is also tough, but it's for a different reason. The guy literally loses with the irons every week, and it doesn't seem to matter because his short game right now, I honestly think he doesn't get enough credit. I know people know he's a good short game player. This is short list best in the world, best on the tour right now. Guy is gaining around the green and putter automatically, and if you can keep that up, you can find a way to do it even if your irons aren't that good.
Yeah, $100 less is a guy that's kind of doing it similar to him, country mate Denny McCarthy. Who would you rather have between the two guys? I think for me, probably Hadwin. I think we've seen more upside there.
Agree. Denny McCarthy is the difference for me is Hadwin is doing it. I guess you could say this is good or bad. Hadwin's short game all around. His putter is on fire, but his around the green game is on fire. Denny McCarthy's putter is always on fire, but his around the green game is solid, but it's nothing immaculate. So I think you have a little extra out with Hadwin. Plus, as you mentioned, we've seen Hadwin do some big things on tour in the past.
Funny enough, I might be leaving out the best Canadian of the three right now, Mackenzie Hughes.
Dear God.
Flat 7,000, a decent week last week before he did back up a little bit on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken there. Would you rather have Hughes over those two guys?
No, I would rather have Hadwin, and Hughes is the same type of player. He's an unbelievable putter. He's lost in 7 of his last 8 tournaments with the irons, and he pairs that with a bad off the tee game. So how he does it is beyond me. You got to give him credit. This is a guy that sunk a difficult putt to get to the Tour Championship last year. He knows what he's doing out there. He's a good player. I would rather have Hadwin, though.
Would you rather have JT Poston over all of them?
Probably, because JT Poston, his skill set is an anomaly, and I kind of relate that to Dylan Fratelli. When he gets going, it can flip in a hurry. He's lost in 6 of 7 with the irons and severely, but in the one tournament he didn't lose, he gained 4.5 with the irons. So it just shows a massive range of outcomes. You got to know what you're getting into. He's a great putter, just like all those guys. But when you get Poston right, you really get him right. And I think that is always an interesting decision.
So a little deeper on Poston, I'd be interested to see the weeks where he lost the most on the approaches, what he did off the tee. If you're going to tell me that he did fairly well or gained minimally, I'd be like, well, what the heck's his problem? If you match that up with bad off the tee game, maybe it was because of the off the tee game, putting him in terrible positions, not even able to gain strokes because of his positions off the tee. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of both there, Ben. That's typically what happens with this stuff. But this golf course, if it really truly was made easier in 2020 and is not gone back to harder like it was every year previous, I think that helps JT Poston. If Poston's worst attribute is off the tee, they've made it easier for him. Obviously, he's a great putter. So 7,100, I think you're getting tons of GPP upside with JT Poston this week. Okay, let's see. And a couple more guys in the 7K range at 7K or above. I know there's a bunch at 6,900. Chat and everybody. There's like 6 guys that I've clicked already this week. So we'll certainly get to them. But Ben, before we move on to them, anybody else that you want to play this week, either that you are going to play or that you want to, but you're not going to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, the range, Noren is someone, if I think for some reason we get like major wind or something, I may look to him. He's a grinder out. He hasn't, clearly it didn't translate to what we thought he could be, but he's still an effective player. But I think the last thing I'll say about the sevens, you got a lot of different types of players, and that's where you need to segment out what you're trying to do. If you're looking for a T30, you got Brendan Todd-esque players. If you're looking for a dark horse winner, I think like JT Poston could do that, but he's more likely to miss the cut than those other guys. So you just need to understand kind of the risk tolerance when you're diving.
For sure. And we got about 10 minutes left here in our show. And we got a couple more topics to go through, of course. NHL strategy show. We're going to catch that with Jay Carey and Cliffy right after us. And then it continues on. We've got the tip-off show with Kayla, Eric, and Greg. I think they're going to give you a day off from that there, Ben. I think.
Yes, I'll be hibernating after this show. I will be resting, and next time you see me, hopefully I'll be back in business.
Yes. We're going to go with that. We're going to hope that that is the case. So, of course, stay tuned for the NHL strategy show after us. But as we move down, instead of going to the deep dives in our hot takes, first we're going to go and add in a little bit of a cash versus GPP strategy here. And we have talked about it a lot, so it's great to put some context to it. For me, as we were asked earlier, cash game locks, we're going to start up at the top. And the first guy that I click for cash games, Ben, this week is Abraham Answer at 8,900. Maybe you can use him interchangeably into a GPP if you think he's going to top 10. But what I think he's absolutely going to give you is a top 25 or a top 30 here. I don't think there's any question. I think the course is perfectly set up. I don't know many courses that I wouldn't want to play Abraham Answer on that's under 7,100 yards. The guy gains his strokes by peppering fairways and being in position. So I like Abraham Answer as my first cash play this week. How about you? Would you rather start with somebody above, or is Abraham Answer a good starting point for you?
I actually would try to get Webb if I could. Okay. I think there's enough down there that you could probably find a way, and we know how good he is here. He's doing everything, coming off a 12th at the Masters. I feel very good about that, but I think you bring up an interesting point. I mean, you have two paths. You can go very balanced in cash and maybe land with like Poulter as your last man in or something, or you could open up a little more and probably get some more win equity up top. Both can be very effective this week.
Yeah, and our buddy Scott Stewart here in the chat is making sure you're okay, Ben.
I'm all right. I just just running a little fever from the vaccine, but all good in the hood. Appreciate it, chat. I would not miss this show. I'm gonna ask for some likes though, some pity likes for me.
Yeah, let's give them some.
Let's pump up the likes. Hit that subscribe bell and the notification bell. You know when we go live. But all good. Appreciate you guys, and I like the segment.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Now let's keep going in it. Let's see if we can give our guys one more pick here in this range. 7,600 if you want to go with Answer Simpson, which I think is a great start for a cash lineup. Now, are we too aggressive with those guys? We've got 7,600 left. So this is maybe where we put in somebody like Brendan Todd, right? $7,300, expect to get him through the line. Now that gives us roughly, I think we're probably going to be able to go back up towards the 8K range with this once we get Brendan Todd in there. Yeah, we're at 7,700 left. We'll do one more player. Where would you go with this lineup? Would you go to Matt Kuchar? Or would you try and go right in that 7,700 range to say Ian Poulter?
I would go to Poulter, and then I would figure out my 2v2.
Yep.
Poulter's someone seemingly just gets it done week in and week out, particularly at tracks that he likes. It's kind of like Augusta. He just gets it done there. It's not flashy. It's not prolific. Guy just does what he does. So if you do this, you're going to have a lot of options for those last two spots, and that's certainly a good starting point. I don't think it's set in stone with those four, but this is the type of build that I would feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely. All right, let's clear that out. Let's go to the GPP side now. And I think that if you are looking to go against the grain, obviously DJ or Cantley up top, you could probably pick either or and get 8% ownership. You could even go Colin Morikawa or Cam Smith. So Ben, I'll let you just tell me one of those three guys to start with, and then we'll go from there. Which one do you want to start your GPP lineup with this week?
I'm going to start with Cantlay because I listen, there's clearly some risk. There's no doubt about it. But if he finds his long-term form, and I have no doubts that he will eventually, and maybe it's right now, coming to a track he loves, we're getting a huge discount in ownership here. This opens up a ton, and we're not paying a premium by any stretch. It's a very fair price.
What was it again? Sorry, I missed the
Cantlay.
Cantlay, sorry.
I feel good with him. Sub 10% ownership. That's a great number if he's okay.
Okay, that leaves average remaining price of 7,800. And I think, again, I brought up his name a couple of times. It just so happens that he is this exact price. It's Bobby Mack. I think it's a great pair with Cantlay. Your total ownership between the two of them, Ben, coming in around 15%. So if we're going with this type of build, would you like to get more aggressive now with this third guy? Go put in somebody like, say, Matthew Neesmith, who not going to be that highly owned down at 6,900.
Yeah, I actually like that idea. Matthew Neesmith is someone that has shown he can get crazy hot with the irons. He's flashed that here, and I think that just looking at his body of work, the results haven't been bad by any stretch, but I think he's actually left some out there. He gained 6.1 at this event last year on the approach. I'm very content doing that. Opens up and saves some salary.
Sure does. Now, with this 4 spot, which again, we'll leave you with a 2v2, would you rather go up to Tommy Fleetwood, or do you think we've gone against the grain enough where we can add in a Harmon, English, or Answer to this lineup?
So I still trust Fleetwood enough risk tolerance wise that it would be okay, but I do think we have leveraged very nicely already. So you're just choosing best available. I would not worry about ownership at this point. And to me, that's probably Harris English-esque play, but you have a lot of options with what you can do. Fleetwood's not a bad play. He's still safe in my book, but this is where I think those three is a very unique permutation just to start. Then you just build best available and you let it fly.
I totally agree. Harris English was the guy I clicked here on my screen, leaving you straight 16,000 left, where you want to get aggressive and go down to say which we'll get into deep dives right now, say like a Chesson Hadley or a Wes Bryan. That's going to allow you to add in, say, a Will Zalatoris or something like that in that range. So I love those type of builds for GPP. Cash, again, the guys that we're kind of focused on, you said Webb Simpson, totally agree. Abraham Answer, Brian Harmon, Ian Poulter, those type of guys are what we're looking for there. So, all right, let's go. We've got 3 minutes left, Ben, so enough time to certainly go into our deep dives, hot takes. So deep dives, I'll give you my top names. Then you can give me your top names to go through it quickly. Doug Gim, Matthew Neesmith, maybe Rory Sabatini, probably not. Chase Seifert, maybe, and Stuart Sink. I think all those Stuart Sink's playing pretty well.
Yeah, I'll throw my support about that. I will highlight Stuart Sink specifically, though. The guy's playing out of his mind. And last year here, he lost 5 strokes putting, still made the cut. I think that certainly masked what could have been a much better performance. You've got some other names. I mean, Lahiri is coming off a fantastic Valero, but he gained 6 strokes putting. I worry about that a little bit. Chad just brought up Bryce Garnett. I see the merit to that. He's a coastal track guy. I don't think you need to go there, but if you're in a jam, don't mind that.
I'd rather you go to Rafael Campos if you want to play Bryce Garnett, personally. It's same price.
Yeah, there's names up and down the 6K range. So I think it's just really about finding what do you need and how low do you need to go? Like, are you doubling up with Cantlay and Webb, and this is why you have to do it? Or is there some other reason that you need a low 6K guy?
Yep, I'm there with you. So, okay, before we get into my hot takes, I want to quickly just spend a couple minutes or a minute here talking about our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, I've had some pretty good success using their props-based contest. And this one this week that I'm highlighting is again, birdie or better. It's Dustin Johnson and Webb Simpson, and the line is set at 18.5. Based on last year's results and this course being easier, I think 18.5 is going to be pretty easy as long as you make the cut. Webb Simpson, I got as over more than 18.5 birdies. But Ben, I'm a little confused at DJ. Do we bet that DJ is going to miss the cut here and go less? Or do we think he gets through the weekend and at least putts decently enough to get the 18.5 birdies? What would you pick here? I'm sure you'd pick the over on Simpson, though.
Yeah, I would take the over on Simpson. I'd probably take the over on both. I do think that DJ, even though he struggled at times, more often than not, he's going to correct it. And the guy can still dismantle. It's not an ideal track. It's never going to be, but the talent is just so immense. So
if the irons get going, though, he could put up 27 birdies.
Yeah, I mean, when it's a clinic. So that's how I would do that. But yeah, those are interesting types things. And that's one of the, as you've talked about, they do it a little differently over there. And it's kind of a different, exciting wrinkle.
It sure is. So, all right, now let's get into the hot takes here. At least my hot takes. We reserved yours for tomorrow night, but I at least like to share mine. Last week, I gave you 5. I got 2 right. Cam Smith in the top 10.
Bad.
Yeah, cash that ticket. Matt Wallace, I had his top 20. I was super close. I gave myself like a half there. Spieth, DeChambeau, Thomas win. That didn't pan out. Paul Casey never was close to the lead. And Jason Day was in the first round lead after 2 holes. Nothing after that. So that didn't pan out. This week, Ty Hatton, he wins the golf tournament. Tommy Fleetwood comes in the top 10. Brandon Grace continues his good play, another top 20. Matthew Neesmith, the top 20. How about Doug Gim? Got him coming in the top 20. I think this is a good track for him. One of his best finishes, obviously, coming right down the road in Jacksonville. So I like that. And then the last one, John Augenstein. The guy made the cut at the Masters last year and hasn't even sniffed one in his 5 or 6 sponsor exemptions. This is the week. Write it down, Ben. This is the week he gets it done.
Now, that is a hot take. That is a perfect way to end this show. John Augustine. Didn't think he would be mentioned. For me, you will see me and Eric Lindquist tomorrow night breaking it down. Certainly, Jason will be in chat, answering questions with us as he always is. We're going to have a good old time. We're going to bounce on out of here, let the NHL guys take on over. Fun time as always, chat. We appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in Slack, and hit that like button on your way out. Good luck this week. Talk to you guys
See you
tomorrow.
for the Valspar.
Valspar.
A couple weeks.